Good day, dear friend. Well, it's happening again. The latest lunatic. And let us, for the sake of argument, let us perhaps go through this story, the latest edition of the Loon du jour. Another ambulatory schizoid running around claiming to be the next thrice named, Trichon-nominated serial whatever. But I don't think this fellow's going to do it. Well, take a look right now, my friends. There he is. Take a good look. That's right. Take a good look. Jacob Wenske, 26. You got that? 26. Dig this guy. Of San Antone. Represents a similar archetype, ladies and gentlemen, in American threat landscapes. That's right. This guy, this child, this moonbat, I've had enough of him. I just wanted to show you the picture. Because I think sometimes it's important for us to kind of see who these people are and kind of what they look like, at least initially, and then ask you your feelings about this. So this guy, this kind of garden variety online whatever, whose rhetoric, in this particular case, outpaces any realistic capacity for action. Now let's start off by saying we should be very, very, anytime somebody makes a threat in any way, no matter what. Like the feller, remember him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner? What was his name? Yeah. Don't know. Poof. So anyway, because we have the attention span of a gnat, but he was charged with 2 third-degree felony counts, that's it, of making a terrorist threat, causing public fear or serious bodily injury or disruption. Okay? This Wenske allegedly responded to a local newspaper's Facebook post promoting Turning Point USA's Women's Leadership Summit, June 5th through 7th at the San Antone Marriott River Center. Oh, that'll be a barn burner. Roll tape on that one, kids. You know when old EK hits the stage. Oh, we're going to be watching. Yes. In any event, he added this, remember, on their Facebook post. This is the was it George Majeski, the mad bomber? Stop me before I bomb again. He writes, quote, I know exactly where to bomb. Further, he added, quote, I can't wait to be the valet for her escort. Okay. Referencing his prior work with a parking management company. One believes. Now, as threats go, not good. Now, an earlier January 2026 email attributed to him escalated, quote, death to Erika Kirk and every single speaker there. America will live on without those scum on this earth. Every Christian nationalist shall perish in the bombing that will take place at every single Turning Point rally and event. Now, this cannot be taken lightly in any way whatsoever. This is insanity. Remember, making a threat is against the law, irrespective of whether you believe it, whether words are misspelled, whether the motivation is cockamamie. We have rules against making threats. Just like assault. You don't have to hit someone. Just the threat is enough. Now, these statements triggered a swift investigation and arrest, as you can imagine. TPUSA confirmed it is proceeding with the event for over 2,500 attendees under heightened security. Remember, the last time this happened, Erika was, she bowed out of that Georgia event, even with J.D. Vance there. Some people still think it was because of low turnout. I don't know. What do I know? Okay. But I'm glad they're going through with it because you can't let some punk like this interfere with people's right to assemble. And there's going to be heightened security, which is good, emphasizing that threats will not silence them. Good. Erika Kirk, who assumed leadership, as you probably heard this. We've been talking a little bit about this after her husband, Charlie's dispatch in September of last year at a Utah event, has faced prior threats, including the aforementioned one that led to canceling a University of Georgia appearance. Now, let's look at the psychological profile of this. This is the good part. This is always interesting. This is impulsive venting, not operational planning. All right, let's look at this very carefully. As a profile, it would look. From a psychological and criminological viewpoint and standpoint, which is what we're trying to do, this Wenske feller fits the profile of the keyboard warrior or the low capability lone actor. Common in law enforcement circles in post 9/11 domestic threat assessments by FBI and DHS. Now, these individuals broadcast grandiose, ideologically flavored fulminations and threats or on accessible platforms without evidence of reconnaissance, acquisition of explosives, target surveillance, or operational security. Now, the key indicators of low credibility here are vague performative language. Quote, I know exactly where to bomb, lack specifics, no diagrams, no timing, no methods beyond generic bombing, which is good. We don't want this. I'm happy. Don't misunderstand me, or don't misunderestimate me, as somebody once said. The valet quip reveals personal grievance or maybe fantasy tied to his job history rather than sophisticated insider knowledge. So I'd look into there. What happened? Were you fired? Now, the platform choice. Look at this. Public Facebook comments on a news post and an email traceable to him scream impulsivity, not tradecraft. Serious actors, serious people use encrypted channels or avoid digital footprints. This guy's a jadrul. That's what we say here in Hell's Kitchen, not in the FBI manual. But the point is, I'm sure, shared. Now, the escalation pattern is interesting. Threats span months but remain static in specificity. No manifestos with blueprints, no weapon purchases flagged, no associates. This suggests kind of a cathartic, paroxysmal rage, this bleating, catharsis, more than plotting. Now, look at the demographics and context. At 26, living in a major city with apparent employment in service industries, he mirrors many, quote, sudden jihadists, as they're called, or aggrieved extremists who radicalize via online echo chambers, which is what this is basically, which is now the performance medium of every lunatic. But these screams and yelps and howls are made, but they falter at execution. Studies show that most threateners like this have mental health comorbidities. Remember that word remember the comorbidities? Social isolation, grievance narratives, but they lack the executive function, the resources, the discipline for mass violence. And that's good. I'm not lamenting this fact. It's good. But let's look at this carefully. Now, psychologically, this aligns with narcissistic or cluster B traits mixed with ideological overlay. The rhetoric, Christian nationalist, scum on this earth, borrows from left-leaning critiques of conservatism, possibly amplified by media portrayals of TPUSA as a gateway to extremism. It evokes and inspires, one might think, displacement, personal failures, mundane job, lack of status, boredom, dare I say, incel, projected onto this high-profile target like Erika Kirk, whose visibility surged, of course, after the tragedy. Quote, America will live on without those scum is classic apocalyptic framing, common in both left and far left. I love this reference to accelerationism. You hear it sometimes in Islamist, not Islamic, Islamist. You hear it in propaganda, but it's delivered with zero follow-through. There's no reference to infrastructure. Now, law enforcement correctly treats these seriously, as they should. See something, say something works because some fraction do escalate. And I can't emphasize that enough. Please, if you ever have any doubts, you will never get into trouble by suggesting to law enforcement that somebody or something should be closely monitored. Absolutely. Yet data, though, consistently show the vast majority, thankfully, fizzle. True terrorists, the real McCoy, train and fundraise and operationalize. And this reads as, again, this kind of like this celebratory, almost like this choreographed, performative catharsis, for likes, or dopamine or imagined relevance, disregard at your peril, but overinterpreting as imminent catastrophe distorts resource allocation. Does that make sense to you? It's fascinating when you look at this, when you break it down. And by the way, the purpose of this is, I think, to make us feel sometimes a little bit better. Not that we should ever completely dismiss what these people are saying, but understand that there are years and years of training and investigation that the great men and women in law enforcement and behavioral sciences have put to this. Now let's look at the political science angle. Polarization, grievance culture, and threat inflation. It's very important. In political science terms, this incident exemplifies affective polarization and the outrage industrial complex. You've heard of the military industrial complex, the prison industrial. This is the outrage industrial complex. TPUSA, funded by Charlie Kirk, mobilizes young conservatives on campuses against woke culture, promoting free markets, limited government, and traditional values. Remember, that was the original purpose of TPUSA. That was the not the pole star, but that was the reason for it. That was their manifesto. Now, post assassination under Erika Kirk, it remains a potent symbol for the right and a lightning rod for the left. This is very interesting because a lot of the problems or the criticism they've received has been from the right. Again, this right-left business is very problematic. Now, Christian nationalism, this is his quote, this Christian nationalism discourse is framed by some academics and media as existential threat to democracy, despite empirical debates over its prevalence and its definition. We're not really sure what it means, but take it seriously. This language of this punk Wenske, quote, every Christian nationalist shall perish, echoes elite rhetoric, elite, kind of detached, disconnected, that pathologizes religious conservatism, potentially lowering inhibitions for unstable actors. And by the way, this is not unique to one side. Right-wing threats against abortion providers, and I'm sorry, I'm using left and right just for purposes of speed here, but threats against abortion providers or politicians, this occurs as well. But the asymmetry here lies in institutional amplification. Left-leaning outlets often contextualize anti-conservative violence via root causes. Let me say that again. Left-leaning outlets often connect and contextualize anti-conservative violence via root causes, meaning the conservatives themselves. Trump, rhetoric, inequality, white conservative threats, blah, blah, blah. You see, you're responsible for the threats against you. You inspire the threats against you. See how this works? This notion, conservative threats, they say prompt blanket MAGA extremism narratives. Now, the event's location, the San Antonio Riverwalk public venue, highlights soft target vulnerability, yet also the resilience of open society. You see, we're not talking Soros now, but actually living in an open society. Now, TPUSA's multi-layered security, private and local PD, reflects a post-Charlie Kirk reality. Conservative figures operate under persistent risk. That is a sick statement made regarding everybody. Nobody deserves to endure this. I don't care what they say, where they're from, left, right, it doesn't matter. It's axiomatic, of course. I'm not going, I don't know, limb saying this, but it's true. Now, the Candace Owens factor. Listen and listen carefully. Blame games and the intra-movement fractures. Predictably, segments will absolutely tie this to Candace Owens. Candace has feuded with TPUSA, Erika Kirk, in a sense, not with her personally, but in the way she handled Charlie's legacy, even her legitimacy as CEO or whatever it is. There have been, again, this idea of conspiracy theories around Charlie Kirk's demise. Let me go on the record and say, you damn right there are, because there are gobs of apparent and potential and theoretical conspiracies. Remember, confederation, groups, organizations, agreements between two or more people regarding a nefarious outcome. That's a conspiracy. So yeah, absolutely. Conspiracy theory doesn't, the way most people use it, it's meant to imply crazy. Now, I will not include myself in their group, but I will say this. Question official narratives, absolutely, unabashedly. Oftentimes suggest, intimate, and indicate insiders, foreign involvement. Remember, you've heard everything from Israel, France, Great Britain, MI5, MI6, CIA, Mossad, you name it. Cover-ups. And why wouldn't anybody think this? Gee, do you think it's ever been done in the past? Yeah. So while many people consider these to be hypotheses, let me reiterate, let me asseverate, there is absolutely no indication that any particular group is involved directly, or any person. It's still up in the air, still being investigated. I think, and I hope, don't forget, Kash Patel's on this. He's got an eye on this. His good eye, I hope. Now, Candace Owens shared internal audio. She's faced cease and desist orders and letters, highlighted staff firings over skepticism. And a lot of folks who don't like this on the right and left will blame Owens and her rhetoric for stoking, for exacerbating, for increasing the velocity, the ferocity, the celerity, if you will, of anti-TPUSA sentiment. And they're going to argue that her platform normalizes viewing the Kirks and TPUSA as suspect. Yeah, she's responsible for that. Not the evidence. Not the evidence she references. She is. She just comes up with this on her own without any reason whatsoever, without any basis. Just comes up with this. This is classic motivated reasoning and scapegoating. This punk's threats predate the latest Owens flare-ups, as some people call them, January email, and they use generic kind of leftist tropes, tropisms, phraseology, not Owens-specific allegations of conspiracies. No evidence links him to her content. Blaming her mirrors exactly how media once blamed conservative talk radio for every incident, or how some blame Zionist influence for unrelated crimes. You see, media dynamics amplify this. Outlets hostile to conservatism will downplay this idiot as isolated, while inflating systemic, inherent, organic, systematic right-wing danger. And pro-TPUSA voices may overlink to, of course, leftist incitement or Owens-adjacent skepticism or anti-Zionist corners overlapping with some of her commentary. You see how complicated this is? It's like a Gordian knot. And all of that twists it into broader Israel critiques, and despite zero evidence. Truth is prosaic. Online radicalization and radicalization systems and platforms and ecosystems, like that new word, algorithmic outrage, grievance porn, declining social cohesion. Shall I go on? All of this produced these cranks independently. Candace Owens didn't invent anti-conservative animus or hatred. Polarization did. And politically, this underscores asymmetric institutional trust. You see, conservatives see TPUSA as patriotic youth outreach that's under siege. And detractors and haters, whatever, view it as some kind of a funding pipeline for culture war. Real threats persist regardless. Remember that. Erika Kirk's leadership is going to test, well, what people look at as organizational continuity amid personal loss and external pressure. Now let's look at the broader news context. Seriousness without hysteria. Do not disregard threats. This punk Wenske, his arrest validates vigilance. Bomb scares disrupt. Even hoaxes exact costs. And yet treating every Facebook edgelord as a proto-terrorist breeds nothing but paranoia. And it chills and it frightens and it concretizes speech. Balance demands proportionality. Prosecute, as done. Secure events, but resist narrative capture, my friend. From a news perspective, this is local crime with national resonance because of TPUSA's brand. Coverage should emphasize quick police work, event resilience, and the banality. I was thinking of this Eichmann, the banality of evil, but the banality of this ignorant fool, this Ingram. How about that? Not Laura, Ingram. This ignoramus. Not grand civilizational clash, unless, the evidence ever warrants it. Psychological literature abounds on violent radicalization pathways, and it stresses most online fire breathers lacking the capability and intent and opportunity. But this guy had venting, little else apparent. In summary, dear friend, Jacob Wenske, this kid, is emblematic, representative of a fragmented, high anxiety polity where digital screams and megaphones and loudspeakers empower the marginal to punch above their weight, rhetorically. And the real story is not his impotence, nay, but society's mechanisms, law enforcement, private security, institutional determination, all that contain it. TPUSA proceeds. Democracy absorbs the noise. The garden variety nut and loon reminds us that vigilance matters, but perspective prevents tyranny of the fearful. So what we have right now, my friends, is a fascinating subject. But remember what I'm saying and watch this. Remember this. Keep this for next time. Keep this for the next individual, because sad to say, there will be other people saying the same thing regarding the next threat. And I'm sad to say, but there are more cases of individuals of threats, of attempted removals. Got to watch that word. And we're kind of getting tired of it, but I hope we never get habituated to it. This is serious, serious, serious business. My dear friend, I thank you. Remember, they're going to come after Candace now. Watch. I guarantee you they're going to blame her. And until we meet again, I leave you with this. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell so that you're always notified of live streams and new videos. Comment as you see fit. And I've got some questions for you in the comment section. So please engage with your brothers and sisters as you comment as you see fit.